ain't nothing. Yeah, if it ain't love, it ain't nothing.
Peace and power to the true and living. What's good, family? This is CBornNacirfaSun, and I am you. Yo, and I'm excited to be coming at you with yet another powerful video. This is Reflections of a Higher Consciousness. And as always, family, we are about to dive deep. And today's video, as I mentioned in my last video, is going to be about this new documentary that just came out titled What is a Woman? Which, in my opinion, is a funny documentary. So if you have not seen it, I highly recommend that you go ahead and watch that documentary, because it is a very important documentary, and it exposes a lot about the times that we are living in, and the things that are about to come. So again, I highly recommend that you check that documentary out. Now, as I was watching, one of the things that kind of frustrated me was the fact that no one, you know, either wanted to or could answer this question, you know, and even, you know, women experts, doctors, these people who are in charge of women things couldn't even answer this question of what is a woman. And I find that kind of disturbing, and this speaks to the point that I try to make in a lot of these videos that I've done, you know in talking about the current state of humanity, the current spiritual state of humanity. That speaks a lot to that, because the very fact that we are struggling with something that really is elementary, you know is ridiculous, but it says a lot. So today we're going to dive deep into that question of what is a woman. Now, I have talked about this before, and I've made some videos. I made the gender confusion videos, where we went deep into this, and we talked about the origin of gender, male, female, man and woman, where the origin of that, where that comes from, how it all happens, and so forth. So I believe 3 videos now on gender confusion. And then also I made the Holy Trinity video. So you may have to go check those videos out in order to, if this is new to you, in order to understand a lot of what we're talking about in today's videos. Because there's a lot of things that we will be talking about, and I'm not going to be able to go back and revisit a lot of what we discussed in the previous video. So again, that's that. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about what is a woman, and not just what is a woman, what is a man, and I'm going to be giving just basic outlines so we can move quickly through this. So hopefully this video is not too long, right? So what is a woman? What is a man? Let's talk about that. So the creator, God, of course, God is the source of all life, of all living things. And it is the power of God, it is through the power of God that everything comes into existence, that everything has its existence, the power of God. This power, when it is in God, it is one. But in creation, this power works as 2, and that's the masculine and the feminine. Masculine energy and feminine energy, right? In creation, that's how this power of God, that's how it works. And the word masculine and feminine, describe the activity, of the power. So masculine being the positive, feminine being the negative, right? So when you think about, the positive and negative ends of a battery, right? It requires the positive and negative end, the masculine and feminine end, in order to create this whole that is known as the battery, right? And there can be no such thing as the battery without the masculine plus and the feminine negative, right? So this power of the creator functions in creation as two, right? Now, as I mentioned, we went deep into this in the previous videos, in the gender confusion videos and so forth, right? So I'm not going to be going too deep here. But basically, when the human spirits left the spiritual realm and descended into the material world, we were sexless. We didn't have a sex. We were just germs. We were spirit germs, right? So when we came down, right, we were spirit germs, and it was in the ethereal world was where we chose our gender and sex. And really, gender and sex mean the same thing, right? Gender and sex are the same. Male, female, man, woman, same thing, right? So it was in the ethereal world that we received that we chose, and I went deep into this, into the gender confusion video. It was in the ethereal world that we chose our sex, our gender, right? And that was based upon the activity that, we preferred. So if a spirit germ preferred the feminine activity through its experiences, if it preferred the feminine activity, it then received the female body, the body of a woman. If it preferred the masculine activity, it then received the male body, the body of a man, right? So that's how we chose our sex and our gender. And I as I explained, this was a one-time deal. So once you chose your sex and your gender, that was a one-time deal. That's not something that you can go back and change. And that's so if you chose the male, chose to be a man, you're going to be that for the remainder of your existence. You chose to be a woman, you're going to be that for the remainder of your existence, right? So then what this means is that the man is the product, the male is the product, is the human product of masculine energy, right? Because remember, this power of God works in creation as two, feminine and masculine, right? So the man then is the human product of masculine energy, and the woman is the human product of feminine energy, all right? So in essence, that's what a woman is, and that's what a man is, right? In essence, that's what a woman is, and that's what a man is. The products of feminine and masculine energy, right? Now, all this happens, everything that I just explained here, all happens before earthly incarnation. So what this means is that you were a woman or a man before you were even born on this earth. And when you die and leave this earth, right? And we're talking about in essence here, if you were a woman, in essence, or a man, in essence, when you die and leave here, that's what you will remain to be. Again, before you were even born on this earth, you were a woman or a man, a male or a female, before you were even born. And when you die and leave this earth, you will continue to be that. Right? So, in essence, again, a man is the product of masculine energy and a woman is the product of feminine energy. But of course, that on earth, that manifests in various ways. Right? On earth, the feminine, the woman, has the reproductive organs of, a woman that has the reproductive organ, has the body in the reproductive organs that represents a woman, that represents the feminine, that represents that energy, that represents that power of God in creation. And on earth, the man has the body in the reproductive organs that represents the masculine energy. Right? And it is only on earth where we have these reproductive organs. Nowhere else. So for our other bodies, when we leave this earth, you'll still have the body of a man, you'll still have the body of a woman, but you're not going to have reproductive organs. Those reproductive organs are only necessary for life on this planet Earth. Because this is the only place where you're going to be having sex. We don't have sex nowhere else in creation. That type of procreation is not necessary. Right? But even without these reproductive organs, you're still going to be a man and be in the body of a man. You're still going to be a woman and in the body of a woman. So manhood, womanhood transcends life on earth. This is not something that's just earthly. And this is not something that can be changed, right, on earth. This is something that can be distorted. You can distort it, right? You can flip-flop, as I mentioned in the gender confusion videos, but this is not anything that can be changed in essence. And because this is not something that can be changed in essence, that's where all the distortions and flip-flops comes from. Right? But as I explained, that's what a man is and that's what a woman is. And on earth, it manifests in these various bodies with these various reproductive organs, and it's not just in the genitals. It's pretty much everywhere in the body, in the cells. This stuff goes down to the level of the cells. Because this is talking about your being, and your being, right, does not start with the physical. The physical manifests from out of your essential being. So your manhood and womanhood goes far beyond just what you see on this earth. And this is why all this nonsense with this gender ideology and all that is not going to hold up. Even with all the money and power on this earth, it's not going to hold up. Eventually, all that stuff is going to come to ruins. It is by design, according to the law. It can happen no other way. It has to fail. It will fail. No matter how much money and power and force is used to force it into being, it by design it will fail, it will collapse, it will cause massive destruction, right? Because it is a gross attack against God's natural order, right? It is a gross attack against God's natural order. Now let's talk about the norm, right? Everything that I just explained, right, about, you know, how we choose our sex and gender and what the man is in essence and what the woman is in essence and all that, that's the norm. That's according to God's laws of nature. That's according to God's will. That's the norm, right? Because of course we have things like transgender, homosexuality, intersex, you know, and a whole bunch of other gender distortions, right? Those things are not the norm. And you may say, hold on, CBorn, you don't get to define what's the norm and what's not. Of course I don't, right? But we have a definition of the norm, of what's normal, as something that we do all the time, that we do frequently, or something that happens all the time, something that happens frequently. You know, that's what we call normal, right? That's one definition of normal, but that's not the foundation of normalcy. The foundation of normalcy is the laws of the Creator. That which is normal is that which is in accordance with God's natural laws. That's what normal is, right? And that's what we have encountered in creation. And, you know, our ancestors adjusted themselves to that, right? And it became the norm. But we have to understand that the foundation of normalcy is that which is in accordance with God's natural law and order. That's normal. So all these things like transgender, intersex, homosexuality, gender confusion, you know, all this stuff, non-binary, all of those things, those are not normal. Those are abnormal. Those are aberrations from God's natural law and order, right? Those are aberrations. And that's why they're painstakingly, you know, in order to create that reality, it's not easy. There's a lot of damn things that got to go through, right? Whereas to be the way God made you, the way nature made you, is just doesn't require all that nonsense, right? So let's understand that that's what normal is, that which is in accordance with the law of the Creator. So all these things that we're seeing, they're not normal. They're very abnormal, and they are aberrations, right? Due to human ignorance of, not just human ignorance, but, you know, unwillingness to accept the laws of their Creator, the way God made things to be. Because we have distorted ourselves, we have messed ourselves up so much that it's difficult to accept the truth, because the truth means that we have to change absolutely everything about ourselves. Everything. And that's hard to accept, and even more so hard to do, right? So we're not going to accept that. Instead, we're going to try to take take what we think is the easy route, enforce our illnesses, our misconceptions, our mistakes to be the norm. But it just can't be. Because as long as it remains in disharmony with God's natural law and order, it can never be the norm. You know what I mean? So let's understand that. Now, so I hope I've explained the essence of manhood and womanhood. Because I think at the very least, we should be able to say, yes, this is what a man is, this is what a woman is, right? These are feminine roles, these are masculine roles. I mean, these are things that we never struggle with this. If you go 20 years ago, these are not things that we struggled with. You know, these are not conversations that we were having, at least not on a massive global scale like today. We literally cannot tell our heads from our asses. You know? Literally can't. Because according to all these destructive ideologies, you know, your head might as well be your ass, and your ass might as well be your head. You know? And your hands might as well be your feet, and your feet might as well be your hands. According to these damn ideas. If you apply these ideas all the way through, whole scale. Because the thing about the laws of God, God's natural law and order, it can be applied all the way through. It works perfectly with everything. But these ideas, these destructive ideas, don't hold up against anything at all. They're flimsy. They blow in the wind. They have no foundation. You know what I mean? None at all. But we have to understand this. Those of us who at least are not insane and at least can see through this insanity, and we're not allowing it to make us insane. We have to understand that the purpose of this, as I explained so many times, is to bring about this global Luciferian world order. When you look at everything that's happening, it is Luciferian 101. These are the things that have happened throughout the course of history to bring about the destruction of civilizations. It's not anything new. It's Luciferian 101, and the people who are doing these things, they know very well what they're doing. You know? So they're using these people as pawns. The trans and homo and all these different kind of gender confused community and things like that. They're just pawns that are being used by these Luciferians. You know? They're political pawns, just like black people are political pawns when it comes to playing a race card in order to, you know, gain some kind of for the government to gain some power or to do something or to keep us distracted or all of the above. Black people are just pawns. And it's so easy to do something, you know, throw race in there and have us all in our feelings. It's the same thing with the trans and gay community, trans, gay, etc. Community. You know what I mean? It is all to bring about the destruction of humanity and to bring about the enslavement of humanity and to bring about this global Luciferian world order, to where Lucifer is going to be God and we'll all be forced to worship him. And you may think that shit is a joke, but that's literally what the hell is going on here. And I've explained before the Luciferian rebellion and the Luciferian mindset and how literally Lucifer is just a spoiled freaking brat. A clever, spoiled, very powerful freaking brat who's rebelling against his father and wanting to take his father's place. But doing it, by doing the opposite, because he knows he cannot literally challenge God and overthrow God. He knows he can't do that. He can't even get close to God. So he has to destroy the work of God and then try to rebuild it in his own image. That's what's happening here. So all this trans and gay and etc. stuff that we're seeing, that's really all it's designed to lead to. And in order to bring about this global Luciferian world order that I've talked about so many times, in order to bring that upon, in order to bring about the enslavement of humanity, in order to bring about the destruction of humanity, you first have to destroy womanhood. You know what I'm saying? Womanhood must be destroyed in order to bring about all these things that I just mentioned. In order to destroy humanity and bring about the enslavement of humanity, you must first destroy womanhood. Right? And this is one of the things that the story of Adam and Eve was trying to communicate to us. We have to ask ourselves, why did the serpent, right, which was Lucifer, why did he go to the woman and not the man? Right? He went to the woman and not the man. Why? Because Lucifer knows that if he can get womanhood, if he can bring about the debasement and destruction of womanhood, then he can bring about the destruction of humanity. So all these things that you're seeing with the trans movement and all that, it's an attack against womanhood, and it is designed to destroy womanhood. Right? That's why they're primarily going after women like that. Right? To destroy womanhood. Because womanhood is the glue of humanity. Womanhood is, as I explained before, the mediator between God and humanity. Right? So the power of God, the love of God, comes to us through womanhood. Therefore, women are the glue that hold everything together. In the home, in the family, they are the glue. In society, they are the glue. Right? In the world, they are the glue. Right? They hold everything together. So if you destroy that, then how can you have a family? How can you have a society? Right? How can you have a world? You know what I mean? So this is being very strategically done. Using deeply spiritually distorted human beings who, instead of coming to terms with their spiritual illnesses, trying to understand these things and overcome it, instead they sell their soul to the darkness. They sell themselves to Lucifer and become pawns of the Luciferian agenda, right, to destroy humanity. So this is a very strategic attack to destroy womanhood, the glue of humanity. Regardless of how it may come to you, regardless of how it's being sold to you. And that's why they can't even tell you what a woman is. Right? They can't tell you that. But womanhood is the glue that holds it all together. Right? The feminine is the glue that holds it all together. The manhood, men, we build. A man builds a house, but a woman makes a house a home. She keeps it all together. Men builds, we build society, we build the world, But women are the one who make it, who hold it together. Right? They are the power that hold it together, that sustains it. Right? So that's what's happening here. Very strategic attack against womanhood to destroy womanhood. I mean, why do you think the same thing is not being done to to men at the same degree, at the same rate? Because it won't work. Not as well as it's gonna work with when you're doing it with women. The same reason why the serpent went to the woman and not to the man, right? I mean, you're not gonna see a lot of trans men talking about they want to compete with naturally born men. They'll get slaughtered. They will get slaughtered. It won't work. Right? So let's talk about the concrete and definiteness of the law and order of the Creator. Right? The natural laws of and order of God is concrete and is definite. It's not fluid. Things are not just fluid. Things are concrete and definite, and necessarily so. Because if things were fluid, then nothing will have any meaning. Nothing can really happen. Nothing can work. Nothing can function. So, for example, we look at a law like gravity, the existence of gravity here on this earth, right? Gravity is very concrete and definite. Doesn't change. It's the same day in and day out. It's not going to change from day to day. Imagine what would happen if gravity was not concrete. And imagine that. How would you live your life if one day you're firmly grounded here, you're firmly established on the ground, right? And you can count on that. And the next day you have no foundation, you're floating in the air. Right? And the next day you're back on the ground, you're floating your air back. That can't work. Life creation cannot function that way. Everything is definite and concrete. It has to be, right? If we look at motion, the laws of motion, right? What goes around comes around. What goes up must come down, and so forth. Jesus said, what a man reaps, he must sow. Not he may sow, he must sow. That's definite and concrete. So we can depend on that. We have safety and security in that. So we know that if I have this apple seed and I plant it, I can count on the fact that if I follow the laws and I do it right, it must grow and it must bear fruit in order to feed me. So I can count on that. I can depend on that. That's definite and that's concrete. That's how life, that's how creation works. It's not fluid. The laws of God, the laws and order of God is not fluid like that. Things cannot work like that. Right? So we have to understand that gender, as I explained before, is also a law. Gender, sex, your sex is not just something that manifests in your damn genitals or in your feelings and your hormones and so forth. It registers everywhere. It's within your entire being. Right? And that's not something that can just be fluid like that. Creation cannot work like that. It must be concrete and it must be definite. So when we look at life, when we look at nature, when we look at creation, we see that. We see concrete and definiteness. Not only do we see it, we depend on it. We need it. But then we look at something as critical as our sex, which is very critical to our being. We want to trample on that and treat it and disrespect it by thinking it is something that can just be fluid, just be thrown up and down as we will. No, I'm sorry. You cannot mock the Creator like that without inviting severe destruction upon yourself. Gender is not fluid, it's concrete. And necessarily so. We need that. We depend on that. That's the only reason why we're even born on this earth. I mean, not the only reason, but that's the way in which we are able to be born on this earth, is the fact that gender, things like that, that everything is concrete and definite. And I'm not saying there is no place for fluidity. Of course, there's a place for fluidity in creation. Of course, there's a place for randomness in creation. But all of that happens within concrete and definite laws. You know what I mean? So instead of trying to understand what's happening within you, right? To all you people out there who's struggling with this, homosexuality and trans and things of that nature, intersex and things of that nature, I invite you to read the Grail message. More precisely, I invite you to experience the Grail message, to truly get to know who you are, truly get to know this creation. Because what's happening is, instead of us, diving deep within ourselves and overcoming our ills, we're now projecting our ills to be our triumphs. I'm sorry, no. That's very destructive. So we have to understand that. So let me go ahead and close this video. I hope that I have said everything that I wanted to say. I want to close this video with some very beautiful words. And as I was reading these words, I was like, man, this is what I should have read when I did the destruction of womanhood video, which I strongly recommend you to check out if you haven't seen it. But this is what I should have read when I did the destruction of womanhood video. But I mean, it all serves its purpose. It's all connected. I didn't share it then, so I'm sharing it now. And what better time than the now? You know what I'm saying? What better time than the now? So the first thing here it says, right? And this is, of course, from the Grail message, the book of life, right? Says here, this is concerning womanhood. Because remember, the whole question here is, what is a woman, right? This essential question that is just so hard for us to answer these days, right? So it says in the message, the highest task in life of woman on earth is the same as it has always been in the higher regions, right? The higher regions of creation, meaning in the spiritual world, right? And that task is to ennoble her surroundings and ensure a continuous flow of radiation from the light, right? The light being God, the creator, right? Which only woman through the delicacy of her intuitive perception can give. Ennoblement, however, is bound to bring about ascent towards the luminous heights. That is spiritual law. For this reason, the existence of genuine womanhood is alone enough irrevocably to ensure the ascent, ennoblement, and continuous purity of the entire creation. Right? That's the power and purpose of womanhood. Right? So all you girls and women out there who don't take yourselves serious, who don't know who you are, right? Who are frivolous about your womanhood and think that it is something that can just be fluid like that. You better stop. You're trampling with the gifts and the power of the Creator. So you better stop. Take a few steps backward and learn who you are. Right? Stop trampling with the gifts of the Creator. Learn who you are. Now, it goes on to say, thus woman's principal task also here on earth in the world of matter is to ennoble her environment, coming as she does from above, holding herself above with her delicate intuitive perception, and thus leading upwards in turn, she forms the anchorage of man with the light, the support which he needs for his work in creation. No marriage is required to accomplish this, not even an acquaintanceship or personal meeting. The mere existence of woman on earth already brings about fulfillment. Right? Let me go back and read this. Right? It said, coming as she does from above, holding herself above with her delicate intuitive perception, and thus leading upwards in turn, she forms the anchorage of man with the light. Right? She is the mediator. She is the connection. She connects man with the light. She connects humanity with the light, with God. Right? She forms the anchorage of man with the light, the support which he needs for his work in creation. Right? No marriage is required to accomplish this, not even an acquaintanceship or personal meeting. The mere existence of woman on earth already brings about fulfillment. Dear women and girls, know who you are. And do not allow this world, do not allow this society, this diseased world, this diseased society to rob you of the gift of womanhood. Your womanhood is your highest gift. Right? It further goes on to say, right? Man stands in creation facing outward, ready for battle, while woman, in shielding his back, maintains the connection with the light, thus constituting the core, the supply of power, and the strengthening. Right? Wherever decay is permitted to creep into this core, however, the front is also lost. Bear this in mind at all times. Nor is this then of any avail for a woman to try and place herself at the front beside the man, where she does not belong. Her delicate intuitive perception only hardens through such a struggle, and thus the highest ability and power once bestowed upon her as her own becomes exhausted, and everything must fall into ruin. I mean, do you hear that? Are you soaking that in? Let me go back here to the beginning. It says, man stands Man stands in creation facing outward, ready for battle. This is what I explained in the Destruction of Womanhood video when I was trying to say that the leading position, the position of leadership is not for the woman, right? It's for the man because he faces outward, right? Because he's equipped to deal with the onrushing currents, the challenges of life and nature. He's equipped to deal with that. While the woman, right, in shielding his back, right, she takes the guiding position, right? She stands backward, back there behind him, right? And that's not an inferior position. That's the most important position, right? In standing behind him, she's the guide. She is the supply of power. She keeps him connected with the light, with God. He gets his strength and power. The man, right, gets his strength and power from her to be able to stand and face outward and deal with the onrushing currents and the challenges of life and nature, right? This is the natural law and order of the Creator, of God, right? With the man standing and facing outward doesn't make him superior to the woman. With the woman being standing behind the man, right, doesn't make her inferior to the man, right? And matter of fact, genuine manhood recognizes, right, the delicacy of womanhood, right, and protects that because he recognizes in womanhood, right, that power and strength which he needs. He recognizes in her the source of his power and strength, right? That's why the natural urge to protect woman, right, lies within man. It's not because he thinks that she's weak. No. It's because he sees within her, and this is a deep subconscious knowing, right? He sees within her the source of his power. And he knows there's something that must be protected. That's why he stands outward as the shield. I mean, this stuff goes incredibly deep, right? So she maintains the connection with the light, thus constituting the core. She's the core, right? The supply of power and the strengthening. Wherever decay is permitted to creep into the core, however, the front is also lost. So with the destruction of womanhood, right, naturally comes the destruction of manhood. The woman is the first domino. Once that first domino is knocked down, the rest of them must automatically be knocked down. That's how this works, right? This is the power of womanhood, right? So bear this in mind at all times. Nor is it then of any avail for a woman to try and place herself at the front beside the man where she does not belong. And when we look at society today, this is all that they're trying to do, telling women that they can be men and then men that they can be women. And it doesn't work because the man is not equipped to fulfill that feminine role, and the woman is not equipped to fulfill that masculine role. That is the Luciferian inversion, and it's meant to destroy us. This is not about any side. This is not about Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal or gay or straight. This is not about none of that. It's not about picking sides. This is about the survival of humanity. And if we don't all wake the hell up and realize what's going on here, whether you're Democrat, Republican, straight or gay, whatever side you find yourself on, it doesn't matter. If you don't wake up and realize what's happening here, we're all going to be destroyed. Each and every one of us, right? Her delicate intuitive perception only hardens through such a struggle, and thus the highest ability, right, and power once bestowed upon her as her own becomes exhausted when a woman forces herself in the role of a man. she loses her power. And if a man forces himself in the role of a woman, he loses his power, because they're both forcing themselves in a place that they don't belong. So the God-given power that they both have become exhausted. Right? And in the case of a woman, this is especially devastating, because with the destruction of womanhood comes the destruction of manhood. Right? And everything must fall into ruins. You girls and you women, you must know who you are. The high place, the high and sacred place that you hold. And we men must know who we are. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about what is a man and what is a woman, this is how incredibly deep this shit goes. This is not something that, this is not a matter of your fucking genitals. And I was trying not to curse, but I'm sorry. It's just that frustrating. This is not a matter of your fucking genitals and your sexual preferences. It goes much deeper than that. We're talking about the destruction of humanity here. And all some people can seem to do is fight and argue for the sake of their fucking sexual preferences, their genitals, and their damn feelings. I'm sorry. This is about your excuse me. It's the passion, I tell you, it's the passion, but excuse me. This is about your very existence in creation. Not this temporary earth life that you're living. Not this temporary earth experience that you're having. This is about this is about your existence in creation. That is what is at stake here. So you can go ahead and argue for your sexual preferences and your genitals and shit like that. But you're arguing for your spiritual destruction. You're forcing that into being. That's what you're doing. You know what I mean? So, what is a woman? Yeah. That's how deep it goes. You know what I mean? So with that being said, let me go ahead and stop this video. Let us pray. We stand in the light in thy creation and know of thee, O creator of the universe. We know of thy infinite wisdom and goodness, of thy everlasting might and inexhaustible power. Worshipping, we raise our hands and beseech thee, Lord, let thy great goodness and mercy be upon us. Amen. Peace and power to the true and living. This is CBornNacirfaSun, and I am you.
If it ain't love, it ain't nothing. Yeah. If it ain't love, it ain't nothing.